Good afternoon. This is Terry from the Frugal Connection. Welcome to my channel and to my kitchen. Today I want to make some pumpkin soup, and this is a very simple, easy recipe. It is plant-based whole food. It has no dairy in it. It has no oils in it, and I'm going to invite you along to cook it with me so you can see how to make this in your own kitchen. I love fall. It's everything about it. I love the colors, the smells, the sights of fall, and it does conjure up images of pumpkins and apples and corn and all of the things that you find this time of year. And so it's my favorite time of the year to bake and cook, and I want to just invite you along with me as we learn how to make this new soup. And then I'm also going to take pumpkin seeds from some pumpkins that I processed this morning, and I'm going to turn those into a delicious snack that is oil-free and tasty. So I invite you to come along with me today. Okay, friends, I'm going to start with the pumpkin seeds so I can get those in the oven while we're making the soup. And for that, I have preheated my oven to 300 degrees. You kind of want a low temperature because we don't want them to burn. And now I've thought about this a little bit because normally in the past, before I changed the way I eat, I've always used oil when I've roasted sunflower seeds. Pumpkin seeds. I've always used some sort of oil, and usually olive oil. But I have really cut all the oils out of my diet as much as possible. So I was thinking about how can I make this in a way where I want the spices to stick to the seeds and roast them, but I don't want all the fat and the empty calories that oil provides. So I think I've come up with a recipe, and I'm gonna walk you through it, and we'll see how this turns out. Now, I don't eat a lot of these. In the past, I've dealt with diverticulitis. I actually landed in the hospital one year with it for quite a few days, and I don't want that to ever happen again. Since I've lost so much weight and I've changed the way I eat, I have not had an issue with that at all. But I'm not going to push it. And see these kind of seeds, the pumpkin seeds that still have the shells on them, I know that might be pushing it. So I'm not gonna go to town on these, but I do want to try them and see how they go and come up with this recipe so that possibly if you don't have a problem with them, you can eat them. All right, so I'm going to start with some salt, and I have Redmond's real salt here, and I'm just going to use about a quarter of a teaspoon. And I'm just going to start dumping the spices in. I decided what I wanted to do is kind of do an Asian flavored pumpkin seed. So I have here some garlic powder, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm going to start with a half a teaspoon. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And I have some ground ginger. And I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of ground ginger. I have cumin. And I'm going to just do about a quarter of a teaspoon of cumin. I have smoked paprika. And again, I'm going to do about a quarter teaspoon of smoked paprika. That's a half. Oh, well. Okay, so those are all my spices, and I'm going to give that a good mix in there. Now, my pumpkin seeds are wet because I did rinse them. What I generally do is I scoop out all the innards of the pumpkins and then kind of do the painstaking process of pulling out as many of the seeds as possible. But then I stick them in a, I have a little sieve that I use that I just rinse them in so that anything that's on, like all the slime and stuff will come off them. And I kind of pick out the strands of pumpkin that may be left to them. So they're wet, but that's okay because I thought it'll help these spices to just stick in here a little bit better. All right. Now, what I'm going to add to this is I'm going to add a tablespoon of low sodium soy sauce. And I'm going to add, I think I'm going to make this a 1/4 of a tablespoon. So like it's like a teaspoon. I'm putting about a teaspoon of sriracha in there. And again, I have not made this before, so I'm kind of just seeing how it works. If it turns out good, I will put it in my description down below, the link to the recipe. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of maple syrup because the maple syrup will just cut some of the heat from the sriracha. All right, put that to the side. Give this a good mix. And it's as simple as that. Now you could literally probably use any combination of spices that you want on this. I just personally love the Asian ginger, the hot heat from the sriracha, the garlic, all that. So I thought this would be a good mixture. All right, now I'm gonna I think that's good. I'm just thinking about, do I want to add anything else? But I don't think so. All right, so now what I'm going to do, let me get a clean spoon. I'm just going to spread these around. And the only problem I have with pumpkin seeds is when I'm fiddling with them like this, they tend to fly all over my kitchen. So like for days afterwards, even if I sweep, I'll find pumpkin seeds all over the place. Okay, so this is ready for the oven. My oven, it just finished preheating. Okay, so I'm going to pop that in there, and I'm probably going to give this a stir every 10 minutes or so, and we'll see how long it takes. I would imagine probably about 20 minutes, but I'm not positive since this is the first time I'm making it, so I will let you know the actual length of time. So I'll meet you back here in a minute. I'm going to move on to the pumpkin soup now, and before we move over to the stove, I decided to just chop my vegetables. Here, I have 1 onion, and I have some garlic, and I'm only going to use, I think I'm going to use 2 bulbs of this, or 2 cloves, sorry. I always get those 2 mixed up. This is a bulb. I don't want to use 2 of these. 2 cloves of garlic, and 1 onion, and I'm going to dice this up, I'm going to mince my garlic, and then we'll move over to the stove. As far as spices for this, I only use a few. I basically just use a little bit of salt and I use some pepper, and that's it. What I'm doing different for this, because as I thought about this, and I want to replace the texture of the creaminess that's normally in pumpkin soup that's put in there by heavy cream or milk or some sort of dairy product. And because I'm not eating any of those things, I needed to find something that I could replace it with. Now, you can use coconut milk if you want to, or like coconut cream. But the thing with coconut, it's high in fat, and I don't really want that in this soup today. So what I thought is cannellini beans. I love cannellini beans. They're basically a white kidney bean, but I have used these in different soups, like cream-based soups, and it works perfectly because it gives you that creamy texture, but yet you're also getting the protein from the beans. So you could also use chickpeas if you wanted to, but I do like the cannellini bean because I just think it works better. So we're going to get started by cutting up this onion. This morning, I have spent the morning, well, I had a meeting this morning, but then I also spent the morning processing some things. I had about 7 or 8 little tiny sugar pie pumpkins. They were small. Turned those, I processed them, which I showed on my other video, but I showed you in that one how to process pumpkin. So I did all that. I froze some of it, and then I kept out 3 cups for myself for my soup. And I pureed it so it's all set to go. Now, you can also make pumpkin soup with just chopping up pumpkin in cubes, fresh pumpkin, and then cooking it down, like making the soup like you would. Saute the vegetables, add the pumpkin, all that stuff. Cook it down with some water, and then puree it all. But I like this method better because, first of all, I'm not putting added water in it right away. and I'm baking it, and I'm getting more. I feel like I get more of the benefits of the pumpkin, and it's not a watered down version. All right, so let me peel this garlic, which is not, there we go. I'm saving all my little scraps here because in my freezer, let me show you. In my freezer, I have a bag of all my vegetable scraps. So I have like carrot peelings, I have celery, parts of celery, peppers, everything. And what I do with this is I just add to it until it's full. And when I get a couple of these bags in my freezer, I then throw them in a pot, cover them with water, simmer them for a couple of hours, and then strain it to get veggie broth. So that's a good trick. It's a good way to use up the scraps. I also peeled a half a bushel of corn this morning, or shucked it, and so it's sitting over here waiting for me to handle this one too. So there's a lot going on in my house today. All right, so I'm going to give this these 2 garlic cloves just a really fine mince. Pumpkin soup is one of my favorites. I love the taste of pumpkin soup. You can use butternut squash for butternut squash soup, but the pumpkin is just nice because it's got a nice creamy texture anyway without any of the added stuff. That's the other thing you could add. You could add cashew cream to give it the creaminess that you want. But I'm just going to use beans because then I feel like I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone because I'm getting my protein in while I'm getting the creamy texture. Okay, so set that to the side. That's my garlic. And now I'm going to dice my onion. My knife is starting to need to be sharpened because it's not cutting like it's supposed to. It's driving me a little crazy. All right. I'm not sure I need this whole thing. I think half the onion is good enough. All right, we're going to move over to the stove, and then I'm going to show you how to put this all together. Okay, friends, I apologize for the lighting over here. It's not the best setup to film, but we'll make it work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have my pan on my pot on the stove, and I'm going to put this down on medium low because I don't use oil in my sauteing. I just saute them dry, and if I need to, I add a little bit of water to get them to the right softness and consistency that I want. And it's a great way to cook because you're not adding all that added fat into your diet. That's just, 1 tablespoon of olive oil or any kind of oil is about 120 calories, but it has no nutritional value, and you're just putting added calories into your food that you don't need. So we're going to start with this, and I'm just going to transfer my onion into that. And let me go grab my salt. Okay, I'm going to bend down here a little bit so you can see me. I don't know if anybody can relate to this. I love my husband dearly. He does the dishes for me almost every single night, and I so appreciate all that he does to help. But one thing he does do is he does not put my things back where they belong, and so I never can find them. So I went hunting all over for another set of measuring spoons because I had used these and couldn't find them anywhere. I don't have a clue where they went to. So I ended up washing these so I can use them in this. But it makes me laugh when he does that. Because I'm like, it's a tiny little kitchen. I don't know how you can lose it. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add in a tiny bit of salt. I mean, it was like less than an eighth just to kind of draw out some of that moisture. And we're going to sit here and let this thing do its thing and start to saute. And again, if I need some water, I will add water to it so that we can so it won't stick to the pan. Yes, it's always been a challenge for me. My husband is a pastor. So one of the things with this particular church that we took is, and most of the churches that we've been in, is they own a house. They own a parsonage. So you kind of get what you get. And I love to cook and bake. I've always done that. I've always done these big cooking projects, canning, the whole works. But every kitchen we've been in has been the tiniest little thing. So this one is no different, and it can be a little challenging at times, even when I'm not trying to film. I don't have a lot of counter space, and so it does make it a little bit of a challenge. One of the things I would like to do one day is paint these dark brown cupboards a different color and brighten this place up a little bit. But my life needs to slow down a little bit before I can do that. So I'm going to let this saute. I will show you back here when it's close to being done so that you can see what it looks like. And like I said, when it starts to stick, I just add a tiny little bit more water. But if I keep the temperature on low and do it low and slow, it mostly will not stick for me at all. And I do use a good pan. Okay, friends, you can hear that sizzling just a little bit. And it's starting to, some of the moisture is coming out of the onions. You can see that a little bit. So we're going to let this go until they're translucent and nice and soft. And then I will add in the garlic for a minute or two. And we'll move on from there. Okay, these are getting nice and translucent. I did add a tiny bit of water, probably about a tablespoon. And now I'm going to throw in my garlic into this as well. The nice thing about this soup, it's super easy and quick to make. There's like hardly any time at all to make this, especially if you're already using canned pumpkin or pureed pumpkin that you've made ahead of time. Starting to smell good in here. All right, this is still got probably another minute. Now the garlic does have more of a tendency to stick, so I'm just going to add a splash of water. And that's generally all you need because it'll release from the pan again. Now the thing with pumpkin soup, you want it to be creamy. You don't want chunks of onions and garlic in it. So once everything's cooked together, I am going to use my blender and blend it all up and then pour it back in the pan. And also, you don't want chunks of beans. You want the beans blended up so that that comes out like a creamy texture. All right, so now I'm going to add in my pumpkin. I have 3 cups of pumpkin here. And then to this, I'm going to drain and rinse my beans. Okay, to this, I'm going to add my rinsed cannellini beans. Get this out of the way. All right, let me give this a good mix. I'm also going to add in 1/2 cup of water. Now, if you have vegetable broth already made, you can purchase it in the store, or you make your own. You can add that as well, but I don't have any, so I'm just going to add water. It'll be fine. I'm going to add in, that was 1/4 cup. I'm going to I just want just enough so that when I blend it, I want just enough so that when I blend it, it doesn't, it'll blend well. I can turn the heat up on this just a little bit. And then I'm also going to add to this some pepper. I'm going to add in 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm going to add in some 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add in, I needs to get some more nutmeg. I'm going to add in a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And this does not need to cook long. It just needs to heat through because the pumpkin's already been cooked. The beans are already cooked. So it's just a matter of heating everything up together. Now I also want to grab some maple syrup and put some maple syrup in there. And I'm going to add a 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup. I suppose you could use a plant-based milk, but because I have the beans, I don't want to do all that because then you start melding too many different flavors together. I think this will work perfect. It'll be nice and thick, which I like for a pumpkin soup. And yeah, it'll be great. All right, I'm going to take this off the burner. We're going to move the camera back over on the other side of the kitchen, and then I'm going to blend this up in my blender. Okay, we have our soup, and I'm going to transfer this right into my NutriBullet high-speed blender, and we are going to mix this all together. Let's see if I can get it in there without making a mess. I think that's the same thing I say on every video, and every video, guess what? I make a mess. Okay, so I have it in my blender, and now we're going to just give this a good mix. Might help if I put this on so I don't end up with a disaster in my kitchen. All right. As easy as that. Oh, this looks so good. It smells good. And I'm going to give it a taste in a second to see what it tastes like. Those beans give such a nice, rich creaminess to the soup. But again, you're getting all the benefits of, that protein that's in kidney beans. These are white cannellini beans. And I want to get all that out of there because that's good stuff. I love the creaminess of it. It's so smooth and creamy. Those beans add some bulk to it. I think the spices are just right. It was just basically salt and pepper and nutmeg, just a little bit of nutmeg and some maple syrup. So I don't think that I would add anything more to it. I will dish some up for dinner time. And I might sprinkle a couple of those little pumpkin seeds that I'm making right now, and we're going to check on in a minute, and maybe a little, like a teaspoon of maple syrup, just to give it a little bit of a different flavor in there as well. But I hope you'll give this a try. I love cooking this way. It's been fun to create my favorite recipes, the things that I've always loved to eat, but to do them in a way that is nutritious and guilt-free and is good for my health. So I hope you enjoy this soup and join me on this journey. But right now I'm going to go check on those pumpkin seeds and I'll meet you back here in a minute. All right, we pulled these out of the oven. I let them go for, it was about 30 minutes, but I did stir them every 10 minutes. Towards the end, I was probably doing it every 5 minutes just to make sure they didn't burn because you don't want them to burn. That doesn't taste good. But they smell amazing, and I tasted one. I wasn't sure with the cumin if it was quite going with the other flavors, but now that they've baked and I've tasted it, it's really good. And it's just a nice little snack. You let these cool, and then you put them in you can put them in a mason jar or a Rubbermaid container, whatever you want, and just have something to snack on a little bit. They're a little salty with the soy sauce. little sweet with the maple syrup, a little spicy with the sriracha. Then all, the garlic and the ginger and the cumin and paprika. Very good. I'm glad I tried it. So I will type up both these recipes. I will put them in my description in the description box below the video. It will link to my website where you can find these recipes. It's thefrugalconnection.com. Okay, friends, there we have it. I put a few of the little pumpkin seeds on top. I did a little teaspoon drizzle of maple syrup. And let me see what this tastes like with all these flavors together. It is so good. Oh my. This is really, really tasty. I'm going to really enjoy this for dinner tonight. Thank you for coming along with me on my journey today as I made pumpkin soup, as we made a little snack out of pumpkin seeds. And I just want to encourage you as you start your health journey, or if you're in the midst of it, or you're on the other side of it and you've done a great job, just to continue on adding more plants, more vegetables, more beans and legumes and whole grains to your diet. You'll be so happy you did. Cut out those processed sugars, cut out the processed food, and just, one step at a time, each and every day. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a great day. Give this video a thumbs up, and that helps other people who may be wanting to be encouraged to eat this way to be able to see more of my videos. So have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.